Is owning zero point 0.1 Bitcoin the key to financial freedom? I want you to picture this, okay? You wake up one morning, open your wallet, and you see a single line of text balance, zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. Now, as of today's price, that's about $11,000. Nothing crazy, no mansion money, but what if I told you that little slice of Bitcoin could change your entire financial life? Now, most people laugh when they hear that. They think freedom comes from millions in the bank, real estate portfolios, or some viral business idea. But history has a funny way of rewarding those who think differently. Because over and over again, the people who understand what Bitcoin really is, not just a price, but a protocol for freedom, are the ones who walked away wealthy. Now, let's start with a simple truth, okay? The world you live in is built on debt. Every paycheck you earn loses value the moment you receive it. Every dollar you save melts like ice cream in the sun because the money supply keeps expanding. Now, in the last 20 years, the US dollar has lost more than 40% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, one Bitcoin that was worth less than a cent in 2009 is now worth more than $110,000. Do you see the pattern? Traditional money punishes patience, Bitcoin actually rewards it. So, what does it really mean to own zero point 0.1 Bitcoin? Well, it means you own scarcity itself. Out of the total 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist, owning zero point 0.1 puts you among the top 2% of all people who will ever own a measurable piece of the network. That's right, 2% of the global population could even dream of it if everyone tried to buy some. The rest would be left out. But scarcity is only half the story. The other half is conviction, the ability to hold something that the world constantly tells you to sell. Now, think about the early holders. They were laughed at, called crazy, told they were wasting money on fake internet coins, yet they understood one principle. The system we live in steals quietly, one inflation point at a time. You see, every time the government prints $1 trillion, your labor, your stored hours of work loses value. Bitcoin doesn't do that. Its supply is locked, transparent, and predictable. Every 10 minutes, a new block is mined, releasing about 3.125 new Bitcoin into circulation. And in 2028, that reward gets cut in half again to 1.5625. The flow of new supply slows while demand keeps growing. That's digital gravity pulling the price upward. So when someone says zero point 0.1 Bitcoin isn't much, remember, in a world where supply is shrinking, any slice of the pie is massive. Now let's put some numbers on it. At $110,013 per coin, zero point 0.1 Bitcoin is worth about $11,000. Now imagine Bitcoin reaching the same market capitalization as gold. Gold's value floats around 14 trillion. If Bitcoin ever hit that, each coin would be trading for roughly 665,000. That makes zero point 0.1 Bitcoin worth 66,500. Institutions, governments, and pension funds are already buying it. The ceiling isn't 665,000. It could be a million or more. At $1 million per coin, zero point 0.1 Bitcoin equals $100,000. At 2 million, it's $200,000. That's life-changing money for most families. And you didn't have to time the market or flip a single trade. Now here's the part that really blows minds. You don't have to buy it all at once, okay? If you buy $100 of Bitcoin every week for about 2 years, you'll have close to zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, assuming the price average near today's levels. 2 years, no gambling, just consistency. That's the hidden power behind zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. It's not about owning a coin, it's about owning a path of the system that keeps everyone else stuck. When you hold zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, you're no longer playing the inflation game. You're holding an asset that central banks cannot print, politicians can't dilute, and Wall Street can't control. Why do so few people make it? Because the moment Bitcoin dips, emotions actually take over. Fear, doubt, panic. But the people who get rich in this game are the ones who treat Bitcoin like a marathon, not a sprint. They understand that volatility isn't risk, it's actually opportunity. Every dip is a discount, every crash is a clearance sale on financial freedom. Now, picture this. You've got zero point 0.1 Bitcoin in 2032. Bitcoin crosses 1 million. You're sitting on $100,000 from what started as small weekly buys. You're not working overtime, you're letting time actually work for you. That's the quiet revolution no one sees coming. Because freedom isn't a number, it's control. Control of your time, control of your money, control of your future. And zero point 0.1 Bitcoin is the bridge. Now let's zoom out again. The median global income is about $12,000 a year. That means owning zero point 0.1 Bitcoin already equals roughly a full year of income for half the planet. And that's today, before the next halving, before the next wave of adoption, before the next bull cycle. But let's look at it another way, okay? Say you make $50,000 a year, spend $45,000 and manage to save $5,000. With inflation running hot, that savings loses 8 to 10% a year. In 5 years, you've lost a quarter of your purchasing power doing everything right. Now imagine you'd been stacking Bitcoin instead. The same 5,000 a year turns into 0.45 Bitcoin over 5 years if you're consistent. Even at the current price, that's about 49,000 if Bitcoin doubles. You've 10x'd your savings power. That's how ordinary people quietly leapfrog the system. That is why I tell people stop thinking of Bitcoin as a get rich quick play. Start seeing it as a get free slowly plan. Freedom compounds. Every sat you stack buys a piece of your future back from a broken system. Now think long term, okay? There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. There are 56 million millionaires in the world. Even if each millionaire wanted just one coin, there aren't enough. That means owning even 0.1 makes you part of the future elite, whether you actually realize it or not. And that's what the wealthy understand before everyone else. They don't wait for the crowd, they act when the math is obvious. When institutions buy billions, they're not chasing hype, they're buying time. They know the dollar is dying slowly. They know debt is rising faster than productivity. They know the next generation won't trust banks the way ours did. And when that trust collapses, what stands left? Code, scarcity, mathematics, Bitcoin, freedom beyond money. But let's talk about what really matters, okay? Why 0.1 Bitcoin isn't just financial freedom, it's psychological freedom. When you start stacking Bitcoin, something shifts. You begin thinking in long-term cycles, not paychecks. You start valuing your time, not your toys. You become immune to the consumer treadmill because real wealth isn't about how much you have, it's about how little you need to keep your peace. Bitcoin rewires your brain. You stop saying, I can't afford it, and start asking, do I really need it? You stop chasing likes and start chasing sovereignty. That's why people call Bitcoin a rabbit hole once you go down. You can't see the world the same way again. You start noticing inflation everywhere. You start noticing how the system rewards debt, not discipline. And you realize that stacking 0.1 Bitcoin isn't about greed, it's about survival. The moment of conviction. Now here's the irony. Everyone will eventually understand Bitcoin, but only a few will act before it's obvious. By the time your coworkers, your family, and your bank finally admit Bitcoin is the new global standard, it'll be priced out of reach. The $1 million Bitcoin era will come faster than most people even expect. And when it does, the 0.1 holders, the quiet believers, will be the ones smiling. They won't be day traders. They won't be financial gurus. They'll be ordinary people who chose conviction over comfort. And that's what financial freedom really is. Not needing permission to live life on your terms. Owning 0.1 Bitcoin today means owning roughly $11,000 worth of the hardest money ever created. Now, if Bitcoin keeps doing what it's designed to do, outpace inflation, absorb store of value demand, and scale globally, then that 0.1 could realistically reach 100,000 to 200,000 within the next decade. That's not a fantasy, that's supply and demand in a finite system. And the best part, you don't need permission to join. No banker, no broker, no approval letter, just conviction, a wallet, and patience. Because the old world rewards obedience, the new world rewards understanding. And Bitcoin sits right at that intersection. So is owning 0.1 Bitcoin the key to financial freedom? Now, it depends on how you define freedom. If freedom means control over your time, your choices, and your future, then yes. Because Bitcoin gives you what the dollar never could, a way to say without being silently robbed. One day you'll tell your kids about this era, when $110,000 could buy an entire Bitcoin. They'll look at you like you owned beachfront property before the ocean even showed up. And you'll smile knowing you were early. You understand and you acted because freedom doesn't happen overnight. It happens one decision at a time. And for millions of people around the world, that decision starts with 0.1 Bitcoin. So start stacking, start learning, start believing. Because the question isn't, can 0.1 Bitcoin make you rich? The real question is, can 0.1 Bitcoin make you free? And the answer is, if you have patience, conviction, and time, It is, yes. I'm Mr. Bitcoin Maxi, and remember, we are all Bitcoin Maxis, and I'll see you all in the next one.